so much for coming to this event in celebration of the release of LA author and book coach Kim O'Hara's book, No Longer Denying Sexual Abuse, Making the Choices That Can Change Your Life. Wow. Deep, right? Whether you are here because you personally suffer from abuse, or you know someone, or you are here to support Kim, or all of the above, we are grateful you took the time to join us in this community for this very important topic. Just a few ground rules. When we get, she has ground rules too. Okay. When we get to the question and answer portion of this event, or if you want to speak, Kim is open to people taking the microphone to share a bit of their story from abuse or their thoughts. But we ask that you leave out specific details as they could trigger others, or share in a general way, please. We also are going live on Facebook, and we are recording the event. So please know that your message is important and it will also be public. So let's get this party started. Woo-hoo! Miss Kim. I would like to kick off the evening with a song from a singer, songwriter, Cynthia Catania. Oh, thank you so much, Catania. Thank you. Cynthia has been around the LA music scene, playing shows with Katy Perry and Sarah Bareilles, okay, and co-writing songs with band members from Macy Gray and the Tantrums. Her shows can be found on CynthiaCatania.com. So I would like to introduce Cynthia. Woo-hoo!
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Congratulations, Kim. What was your name? Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. And you know, this song, Kim asked me to play a song at her book release, and I chose to do something that is from my repertoire, that is about being seen, witnessed, and experiencing love in that way, where I guess for me it came from a place of I wrote this song for someone who looked at me with the eyes of love in a way that I hadn't experienced before. I felt truly seen. So that's what this song is for. Wishing you all love. This is called Frames. Are we up and running? Thank you.
All the hope that springs from love. Take a hammer, break the silence now. Garden walk through glass to get closer. You know me, you see me in a painter's frame with a master's name. You know me, you show me all the beauty that you see. It's missing when I'm looking at me. When the hope is alive, every day filled with surprise. Plastic flowers, even you are in bloom. The rare bird who flies through the window. You know dream. You know me. You show me all the beauty that you see. It's missing when I'm looking at me. If this love song falters, know you matter more than notes and words. Bring a simple song to life with one look only across this room. Can you feel my heart? Do you know that I adore you? And I know you. And I say you're the masterpiece. All the joy you bring, I know you. And I see you, all the beauty that you are. It's not missing any more.
Wow, that's all I can say is wow. That was amazing, Cynthia. Amazing. Wow. I was like so into it. I was, whew. Yes. Wow, thank you so much for that. Thank you. Now, I get the pleasure of introducing this wonderful lady that I met many years ago, and then our paths crossed again, and I'm so honored to know her and so honored to be a part of this event for her today. She's just an amazing lady. So I would like to introduce to you all Kim O'Hara, who will speak and read from her book tonight.
Wow, this is amazing. Wow, this is amazing. Thank you, Cynthia. That song just like goes deep into my soul. And it was really important for me to bookend this evening. We have another performer coming up, Sonja Marie, at the end, because music has saved me many times in my life when I didn't really think I could get through some of the dark parts, especially as a teenager. I don't know if you guys ever remember mixtapes and having to like hit the button and then the other button and then the DJ would come in and be like, ah, it was almost perfect. And music has been a huge part of just keeping me feeling safe at times when I didn't like know where I was going to turn for help. I'd like to recognize some people that are here tonight. I don't know where my daughters went. Oh, they're in the back. My daughters, Venice and Augusta, are here tonight, and they've been a part of my journey. A lot of times indirectly, not knowing they were part of my journey, but they have been a part of my journey in healing. I woke up from a dream that I had been sexually abused. It's been 11 years now, which is hard to believe that it's been 11 years. And it's been quite an experience. I want to recognize Sue-Ann Pin. Sue-Ann, if you could just wave. You might know Sue-Ann from the show As We See It on Amazon. She's an unbelievable actress, and I'm just going to tell a short story that I hope will give everybody inspiration if want to be a writer or you want to write a book. This book was already written once already in 2017. And Stephanie Zong is nodding her head because she was acknowledged in that book and this one too. I kept you there, girl. And what happened was I wrote this book, and I wrote it as a memoir, and it was called Kicking Abuse in the Ass. And I wasn't ready to tell my story yet, but I felt I needed to publish it, and I did. I got a publisher, and then I had a book signing. And Sue Ann came to the book signing. She bought like 10 books. And she said, I want to write a book. And we started working together, and she wrote her story. And then I just sat on the book. I didn't want to tell anyone I'd been abused. I thought being a sexual abuse survivor was gross. I thought it was not part of my brand. And I decided to put it down till now. And what happened was I got a publisher for another one of my clients' books. And they were doing a really good job for my client. And one day I was talking to her and I said, I have this book and I wrote it. And the publisher, I just got the rights back and I don't know what to do with it. And she goes, what's it about? And I said, well, it's not really a very sexy topic. It's sexual abuse. And she says, well, I was sexually abused. I'd like to read your book. And she picked up the book and said, we will publish your book. We will take your book out wide if you rewrite 75% of it and make it a self-help book. And I was like, and you do it in 4 months. So I did it. And that's what this book is today. And, I feel ready today. I feel ready today to talk about it. I feel like I'm on the other side of it. I don't know if we're ever done recovering from any kind of abuse. And this book might have sexual abuse in the title, but it is for anybody that's been, beaten, had a narcissistic relationship, someone that's had sexual violence, someone who has been neglected, someone who has been abused in any way. It affects us all the same way. It's all the same. And what we tend to do as abuse survivors is we minimize it, especially as women. Oh, well, that was just one time. Or even worse, if I hadn't have done that, then maybe it wouldn't have happened. And we start to blame ourselves and we start to shame ourselves. And next thing you know, we bury it deep into like a compartment deep within ourselves. And we say, well, maybe that can just stay there and I won't have to deal with it. And in my case, it started to ooze out into everything. It started to ooze into finances, romance, parenting, everything, inner child, energy stuff, generational abuse. I started to find, I had to take care of my business so I didn't pass that down to my children with anger and rage. And so what happened in writing this book, and I'm gonna get my little cheat sheet, is that I realized, because in the memoir it had been kind of all over the place. But what my brilliant editor did, and she was like a slave driver. Now I know what people go through when they write books with me. She showed me that there was a 21-step process. And we didn't call it a 21-step process, but we realized there was a beginning and an end to this journey. And even though it's never over, there is an ending point. And I just wanted to go through some of the ending points. And I don't really want to sit here and talk for a really long time. I'm going to read two passages. But basically the way it started to unfold is there's 3 first stages. And this is really, I'm alive on Facebook because I hope that there is an abuse survivor out there who has not yet come out of denial. Denial is a huge part of this journey. There are so many people that are still in denial that they've been abused. And then when they wake up to it, they do not know where to turn. I wrote this book because I had nowhere to turn. My greatest solution was lots of baths, lots of crying, lots of, like, I was sober, luckily, right around when I realized that I had been abused. So that was a beautiful thing, that kind of combined itself, because I didn't like drink myself to death over it, you know, because there is a solution. But the first steps that I took after the remembering, that's always the first step. There's that remembering, that like, oh shit, you know, no, like this is impossible, like this can't be possible. And then there's the understanding. Like, what is this? Oh my God, like there was abuse. Oh my God, like I buried that memory when I was 5, or that thing happened when I was in college and, you know, I was date raped or something. And then there's facing it, right? Like now you have to face it. Like, what are you gonna do when you face it? And those are the 3 first stages, you know, of really unpacking that denial, right? And then for me, I found like I had to get a new voice. I had spent a lot of my time yelling at everybody. I yelled at everybody all the time. And so I had to find like this new voice. And I remember there'd be times where I'd be like, oh my God, like I'm kind of funny. Or, oh my God, like I'm nicer than I thought I was, you know, because I had this image that I wasn't like that great a person, you know? And it's interesting, I remember early on in my recovery, Charlene Gorzella, who's here, gave me like my first job, and I was newly sober and just coming out of the abuse. And a friend of mine, and I did like a little TV show with her, and I didn't even really want to do TV anymore, and she dragged you, oh, you can do it for me. She's really like gregarious that way. She'll get you to do anything. And I did this survey after we worked on this show. Someone said, do a survey and ask people what they think of you. Because in my mind, I was still that other person that had been like angry and willful, and I really didn't like have a very good image of myself. And I did this little survey, and every single person on the survey was like, always there when you need her, and really kind and really funny. And I remember crying and crying and crying because I couldn't believe that that's someone that I could be. And I started to realize that that was a new voice that I had, that I was kinder, that I had a lot more empathy, that I was more compassionate. Because when you've been abused, you become an abuser. It just happens. It's just a natural thing. You just pass it down. And I didn't want to pass that down anymore. There's a couple other things that happened to me, and it might not happen to every abuse survivor, but my particular scenario was panic attacks. So I started to get panic attacks, and for a lot of survivors, there's anxiety, there's a lot of stuff that comes up because now you're like facing it, your subconscious is releasing. So I was like, great, you know, now I've gotten sober and faced abuse, and now I have to deal with panic attacks. But they've gotten better over time. Telling others. This is definitely an interesting phase that you go through as an abuse survivor. I went through the phase that I thought I had to tell everybody on the first date, and that actually doesn't lead to a second date. It's not sexy first date language. And so I started to learn when to tell, you know, and who to tell, and who was safe, and why I needed to tell. Like, and I realized that wasn't like a banner that I needed to carry, you know, and there were appropriate times to tell people. I had to go to therapy. I went to a lot of therapy. I did a lot of therapy. I had to take back my body. You know, I didn't really have very high value of my body. You know, it had been a vessel. So I had to understand what that meant to be in my body. And that was a whole process that I went through. We get into some woo-woo stuff in the book. I mean, I'm like a pretty woo-woo person. I mean, I've been on shamanic retreats, and I'm also a Christian. So I don't know, try to make sense of that. But in between all that is like your inner child, there's your energy work. You know, if you believe in that stuff, our bodies have been subjugated to things where we shut off channels of who we are, and we've got to let that energy come back up and let that inner child come back up. So I do talk about a bunch of that stuff in the book. You know, 2 big things for me, shame was a big one. Shame about what happened to me. There's a variety of different, I'm not going to get into the details, but depending on what the abuse is, the shame can range from liking it to, not being able to protect yourself or protect other people in your family. It's very deep. And then there's commitments. I had to look at the fact that I thought I was this super committed person, and then I realized I wasn't really committed to anything, because if I didn't commit to you, then you weren't going to hurt me and I wasn't going to be vulnerable, so I stopped making commitments. And I teach in the book how to do that. So, and then the last two are romantic love, which seems very hard to surmount when you've been abused, and then eventually released and having a new life. So I'm just going to read a couple passages. So that's basically the process the book goes through. And I'm going to read from the first chapter, and I'm going to read from the last chapter. All right. So no survivor wants to remember the abuse for the first time. For many, the subconscious mind obstructs the memory until there's some kind of sign that your emotional maturity has evolved to handle the short-term or long-term decimating effects of realizing that sexual abuse is part of your story. You awaken to this truth and you can't erase it. While you may not want to remember, there is the golden gate to life on the other side that has been obstructed for so long. The person inside of you who could not seek the light, the divine you who is in the darkness for so long, gets to step out and begin a new chapter. No more limping along, no more dialing it in. You get to begin a new life that is firmly rooted in truth. Will you face all the facts the day you remember? No. The week after? Perhaps not. According to the International Society for Traumatic Stress Studies, it's common for people who experience a traumatic event to remember the event after a long delay. They say, at the time of the traumatic event, the mind makes associations with feelings, sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and touch connected with the trauma, and later, similar sensations may trigger a memory of the event. So when you remember the abuse, it may seem like it comes out of nowhere. Why now, you may ask? It feels radically inconvenient. But honestly, there's no good time to remember abuse. It took 42 years for my mind and body to remember the abuse because my subconscious had buried it so deep. It was a way for my mind to protect me against my trauma so I could be high functioning, gaining work accolades, or building my family under the shadow of a very big, dark secret that festered over time. Once I remembered the abuse, I didn't have the choice to ignore it. I had to face the abuse head on. When you face the abuse of denial, you will be combing through the details. For a while, you'll be living in an uncomfortable space between the past you and the new you. And in that chasm, you'll see that there's a direct route and path to happiness, and the outcome is your new life. Your time for self-awareness has arrived. There's no ending to this journey, just a beginning. So that's from the first chapter. Thank you. All right. And now I'm going to read from the end. One thing I wanted to say too that I love is that the awareness that's now out in the world about abuse. And my daughter Augusta and I went to. She loves Billie Eilish, and I didn't really know Billie Eilish, but I had tickets to the Foo Fighters, and the drummer tragically died, and I got credit. So I was able to get us tickets to Billie Eilish, like really good seats. I was really stoked. And that girl, she's all of 21, I think, silenced the entire forum by asking everyone to breathe, and then told us we need to make sure we protect the young girls in the world. And I was like, damn, talk about using your platform to do good. And ever since that moment, I have loved Billie Eilish. I mean, she's amazing what she does anyway, but I'm so grateful that there are young women out there that have this huge stage that are using it to make sure they spread a message like that. So before I'm going to take a cue from her. So before I read from the end of the book, I'd love everybody to just sort of close your eyes for a minute. And I want you to just think for a minute about anybody you might know in your life that you think might have been abused. And I want you to just send them love and hope and let them know it's going to be okay. And then take in a very big, deep breath. And then just let it out. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to read for this last part here. Okay. Okay. I pray for enough healing in all of us survivors so we can have empathy and compassion for the men and women who are still trapped inside their old story, who believe they can't have any love other than that primal initial love of their sexual abuser. It is so hard to break that old story. Our journey can help them by example. We can kick abuse in the ass. Today, as I continue to recover from sexual abuse denial, I have an intuition and a gut feeling that aligns me. I have discovered in this process. I have an adult mind and a body that is connected. In the past, I was completely disconnected from my physical and mental cues and didn't trust any I received. My mind and body did not talk to each other. Today, I apply that intuitive feeling to evaluate people and their motivations. When I find myself in situations with people who are erratic, addictive, and abusive, it only takes me 3 weeks to walk away versus 40 years. I'm sharply attuned to my inner self, so I seek out companions who nourish me, and my expectations of others come from a place of connection rather than how can I use them to feel better or to hide myself. I no longer want to operate with a dark secret agenda. I want to walk in the transparency of my soul so I can be a vessel for survivors who are seeking their path. Walk in the deepest wild of yourself. Make choices to cultivate the most profound life. Waste no more time, dear heart, for today, in this very moment, your body is your own. We are all survivors of some form of abuse. Today, we get to have voices and speak out. With that right, we can have love and live freely where limits have no bounds. I love you wherever you are, and together we can find gratitude in this journey. So I would just like to open the floor up for anybody that would just like to share a little bit about what they've been through. We gain courage through hearing other people's stories. And so if anybody wants to come up and speak at the microphone, now would be the time. Jay Wu would like to come up and speak at the microphone. Come on up, Jay.
Why am I first?
Just do like a little too.
Okay. She is my book coach, and being a thriving entrepreneur now in my later half of my life, I've learned that the beginning part of my life was a journey to get to happiness and joy beyond anything I could ever imagine. And Kim knows, growing up in a very suppressed childhood with parents who were very culturally different than growing up here in America, it's tough, you know? And we all go through it, we carry it, but knowing that we can still be vulnerable but strong at the same time. And I think that's the beauty in having gone through the rough parts in life, is to know that we can come out the other end even stronger than we can even imagine, because fighting through physical abuse is something that physically makes us stronger, but also mentally fortifies our ability to be a survivor. And I call it now a thriver, because surviving is one part of it, but thriving through it all is the rainbow. The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow really is knowing that I have amazing friendships and an amazing husband and great kids and an amazing business. And I don't know, 40 years ago I would have thought that that was possible, but knowing that I can write about it and have this cathartic release of knowing that I did that. And no one gave it to me. No one gave me a damn thing. I'll tell you that right now. Everything I have in my life is self-made, self-built, and I think I can be proud of the fact that I did it myself.
That's right, Jen.
Right? And so, this was amazing. I'm proud of you. You're amazing. You've been a wonderful, beautiful gift in my life, and the beautiful people you've brought into my life because of this journey of writing, and I'm gonna finish. I'm gonna finish.
Does anybody else want to get up and talk, share?
I'll share something.
My name is Charlene. Thank you. Very good. I don't bring this up. I'm a product of the 70s and 80s, and they say if you remember the 70s, you weren't there. And so I was in a lot of, I'm recovering alcoholic addict, 35 years, but in the 80s, I remember a supposed good friend, I was held hostage for 3 days in drug-induced, being fed a lot of drugs. And when the Me Too movement came out, that's when I remembered it. And I was like, and I just blamed myself that I got myself in this situation. And it was a guy who always wanted to have sex with me, and I never would. And he got me in a situation, and I remember his name. I'll say his name, I don't give a shit. Jimmy Toronto. I try to Google him to try to find him, and I can't find him.
Facebook might find it.
Well, I don't care. I tried just to see if the guy's still alive. But, there's a part of me that has forgiven him, because I also think we're all product of lots of drugs and alcohol, and we weren't who we truly were through it. So there's forgiveness there. But I know that it was more than that 3 days that I had to look at in my life that I put myself in that situation. Not that I blame myself for it, but I also made myself very vulnerable to it, and to really give my body away. And I never honored myself in saying, this could have shifted me, recalibrated me in ways I have no idea. Because it took a long time to have relationships for a long term. Now I'm married. I love what you said, that your life is, I'm self-made too, with a lot of great people around me. And, the odds were against me for having the success I have in my life. So I also honor the experience that I had. That, who knows, it shape-shifted me in ways that it could have been a horrible experience, which affected a job that I had at the time. But anyway, I'll get off because I know there's probably more people. But, I honor that time, but I also am so glad you brought up that. Because Me Too, and you coming out, and you're coming out with your new book, or whoever is, I'm sure there's a lot of book writers here. And so I'm glad I'm here. So thank you for the love, Kim.
Thank you. We're going to help a lot of people. Does anybody else want to get up and talk? Or say anything? Anything that they want to say? Come down, Amy Powers.
I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm so thrilled to be here with you to witness this, because I've seen so much of a change in you over the last number of years. When we first knew each other, you were not out to yourself with all this stuff. And when we next found each other, you were in the process, and now you're a whole different person. So it's joyful to see. A whole different person in the best way. Joyful to see. I was molested when I was 10 years old, and my molester was 13. And like you said, for a long time, not only did I deny that it happened, but when I tried to tell my folks about it, they denied that it was anything. It was that era. It was not this era. And so then I pushed it down for a really long time. And looking back in my life now, I can see ways in which I pushed other aspects of myself down for many, many years. It's fascinating what can happen in terms of liberation. It doesn't matter when it occurs. And I did write about it. So in addition to being a writer, I'm also a songwriter, and I had a song that I wrote called Shame. And the chorus was something like, shame, shame, shadow with no name. And how it's, how it's always coming after me. And it was about that experience. But I never shared that. I think my husband is listening here. You probably never heard about the abuse or the song. Teeny tiny. So we carry a lot. And I think a lot of me got buried really early on. And then I used Facebook, and it worked. I found the guy. He was a family friend, right? That's part of the reason, when it's close to you, if it's somebody who your family has relationship with, nobody wants to say this happened. But I found him. First of all, he was still alive. Secondly, he owned up. Thirdly, he told me that what I had imagined was the worst, that maybe I'd forgotten, because I just couldn't deal with it at all. He said it never happened. He said it only went up to a certain point, and then certain things did happen, certain things didn't happen, and then he begged my forgiveness. I know I'm in a very small minority, but miracles happen all the time, especially if you allow yourself to be open to asking. So if anyone is still if this has happened to somebody and there's a way that you can get back in touch in a safe way, maybe there is some dialogue that can happen. Not all the time, obviously.
There's a chapter called Telling Others, so it's in there, how to safely talk to people and address people that were your abuser, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't wait
It's
to
all
read
in
this
there.
book.
It's all in there.
I can't wait to read this book.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak? One thing, Amy just kind of gave me the courage to tell one more thing. I'm going to tell one more thing, and I don't even know what time it is. Does anyone know what time it is?
8:09.
8:09? Okay. Interesting story. Yeah, Amy just gave me the strength to tell this story. The longer that we go without facing the abuse, the more that we are sort of subjected to the continuing patterns of abuse. So, when I was writing this book, oh man, this is gonna be hard to get through. I had dated someone right before I woke up from the dream and before I got sober. And the relationship wasn't very long. It was about 4 months. He was a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I thought, he was all this and that. And I remembered, I woke up to the fact that I was date raped by him. And it stunned me that it had happened again. Like, I couldn't believe it had happened again. Like, how is this possible, And it was right at the very end, like right at the edge. And so I went through a big, and what's interesting is, before I realized he had date raped me, I kept running into him. I ran into him at a synagogue. I ran into him when I had just passed like a substitute teaching test. And I was like, I don't run into any of the guys I date. Why do I keep running into this guy? It was almost like God's like, come on, come on, come on, come on.
And I finally realized that he had date raped me. I contacted him. Now, the person who had abused me was my dad. He's been dead for 10 years, like a very long time. He's been dead for 16 years. So there wasn't going to ever be that conversation. And I have had conversations with my dad through God, and we've had a lot of forgiveness dialogue. So I have released a lot of that suffering. But I contacted him and I said, you did this thing, and I realized what you did, and it wasn't right. And I just found out that you've become in this position of power. And if I find out, if I get any whiff that you've done anything to any of those women in that organization, I will take you motherfucking down. And I'm serious. I'll take you motherfucking down. I said, and he said, I didn't. I said, I don't care what you said you did or didn't do. This happened. And you better behave. And I was released. I was like, oh my God. But it made me realize, like, how until we truly face it, it can keep happening in ways that we don't even know. So like the remembering kind of happened again 11 years later. I was like, oh my God, I thought this was kind of done. And so I really appreciated what Amy shared, because I did get a chance to confront somebody about it. What else do I want to say? I feel like I've kind of said it all. I mean, please, if you can, tell people about this book. There's so many millions of men and women. Men, there's a lot of men who have been abused, and it's really horrific for them to face it. They do not want to face it. Linda, do you want to come up? Come on. This is my good friend and my hairdresser, Linda.
Thank you for speaking. Just sit up here. Okay. Oh, my legs don't touch.
Hi guys, how's everyone doing? Good? Awesome. Kim is a really great friend of mine. She's also one of my wonderful, wonderful clients. And we've kind of gone through a lot of fun stuff together. So thank you for having me up here today, by the way. And congratulations on the book. And I'm really excited to read it and share it with everybody. It's really awesome to be able to kind of talk and see everyone and acknowledge, because I unfortunately am also a victim of child sexual abuse, and as an adult as well. But with therapy and finding a really good community and people that have also gone through something similar, and just knowing that you do have a support system to acknowledge that it's okay to acknowledge those traumas, and the best thing you can do moving forward is letting yourself heal from them instead of pushing them deep down inside. And I feel like as time has passed, we've been able to acknowledge that we do have those traumas. And I, for so many years, felt like that didn't happen to me. Like, I'm a normal person. That doesn't happen to me. But when I'm, randomly crying somewhere, or having a mental breakdown, or having anxiety and not knowing why, like, your body really does hold on to a lot of those things. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important that you do acknowledge it and you do overcome it. I am a huge believer in therapy and support in people, and having Kim and having a book like this and knowing that I'm not in it alone is really important to me. And it's really overwhelming to know, like, once you do open up and talk about it and you're not ashamed about it. I was ashamed about it for a really long time, thinking it was my fault, when it's not my fault. So really, you do have the power to make those changes. So thank you. And that's kind of my story on all of that. It's still hard to talk about, because I just have never really looked at myself as a person that has been taken advantage of. For some reason we see that as like a weakness, and it's not your fault. It's not our fault. It's not Kim's fault, and it's important that we're holding the right people responsible for that. So that's why this is really important to me. And I wanted to come here and just be really supportive of her, and really anyone that's gone through something similar. If chances are there's someone in your life that has never spoke about it or is really quiet about it. So just make sure you guys open yourself up to that, because it's guys and girls, men and women, it's everybody. So thank you. Thank you guys.
This gentleman would like to speak.
Hey, Better.
Hi, how are you?
Jim,
Hi, Ben, nice to meet you.
I just want to say something.
Absolutely, 100%. Go ahead, have a seat.
Hey, everybody. I'm Ben. I know some of you folks around here. And something that you were talking about, and it is something that's really hard for guys to talk about. Not like it's very comfortable for women to talk about their sexual abuse, but I am somebody that went through that as well. And I don't think that, when I hear the statistics on it, it's like a little bit more common for women, but not. But it's not like it's 90-10. And I think it's. I guess what I'm trying to say is, so I'll tell my story. When I was in 3rd grade, I had a tutor who was also a teacher at my school that molested me when she was tutoring me. And then when I was in 5th grade, there was some girls who were a couple grades older than me that held me down at one of their houses. And then a little bit older than that, I had a sister who was 8 years older than I was, and she had friends that were 8 or 9 years older than me that used to come into my room during sleepovers and have their way with me. So obviously abuse happens to men, and it isn't just men that abuse men. I never had a man abuse me. And then later on in life, I had a girlfriend who was really psychologically abusive to me as well. And I mean, I'm obviously very much looking forward to reading your book, but I think what I wanted to share with you is, so I have this other friend who I've been friends with for a long time who was in a very, very terrible sexually and emotionally abusive relationship and couldn't get away. And really helping her, being an advocate the best that I could, was able to help her get out of this guy's house and move someplace else, and like on her way to recovery, which is a very painful thing after like 6 years in a very, very terrible abusive relationship. So I'm very much looking forward to sending her this book as well. And the one thing that I wanted to say, now that I have your attention, is you all know somebody, you all know a lot of people that have been abused. And it's not a comfortable topic ever to talk about. But if you have the power to listen and you have the power to help, you need to do that, because you can, and the people that have been through that need your help as a friend or as a family member. And even if it is just as much as talking about, hey, I heard this woman reading about her book, sharing her book, and saying, maybe it's something that you want to look at with me. However you start the conversation, do it, because I think about this girl that, she's not a girl, she's 30, she was a girl when I met her, she's a woman. Helping her out of her life situation that there's a lot of people on the planet, but I was the only one that was actually able to help her make a change in her life that's going to be a big one. So you have a lot of power and you have a lot of compassion in this room, so don't not share it.
Thank you so much.
I swear to God, he wasn't a plant. It was amazing. Wow, it was amazing. Charlene, okay, so one quick thing, and then we're gonna close because we've got Sonja Marie who is going to blow our socks off with her performance.
He's like, what?
I'll be really quick. It's my intuition's telling me I should share this. Caveat to the story, or what happened, was I had a friend, I didn't even remember that she was in the house I was at with Jimmy, and decades later I'd seen her. She was a roommate. This is in the 70s, and she told me, we were walking because I hadn't seen her for years, she goes, I always felt guilty of leaving you at the house. And she went in the bathroom, and I don't know that, she called her uncle, come pick me up. And her uncle picked me up and she left me there. And she said from that day she's felt guilty, and she never left anybody again by themselves, like at a bar or something. So if you've been witnessing it and you've had the guilt or something, and maybe it never happened to you, but maybe you witnessed and sort of walked away from it, there's some healing to be done too. And I'm so glad we had the chance to talk about it, decades later, but it's still, I didn't know. So, just forgive yourself.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up the Q&A. I would just like to bring Michelle Long back up, and I'd like to acknowledge Michelle and also Sharon Lewis. These two ladies have been my rock. I belong to a group called Seeds of Hope at the Hope in Christ Church in Compton, where I practice my faith, and they are unbelievable, and they baptized me. Well, they didn't, the pastor did. Yeah, we did it in the kiddie pool. But they were there for me. They were there for me when the pastor did it. But so thank you so much for being there. I appreciate it.
All right, first I want to say that tonight is amazing. When I talked to Kim about this event, Kim was kind of like, oh, should we do it, should we not do it? And I told her this was going to be an event that was going to move people, that it was a movement that needs to happen. And these stories need to be shared. Sometimes, like I heard a lot of you say, that sometimes we just hold in or we think it's us, but we need to share. And we need to have compassion and love on each other, because you never know what the person sitting next to you has been through. So I think this event is very healing for a lot of people. So thank you so much, Kim, for moving forward with this event. I know that was not what I was up here to do. I'm so sorry. So I would like to bring to the stage singer, songwriter, Sonja Marie, who over the last 20 years, millions have enjoyed her as one of 3 writers featured on the multi-platinum album, Waiting to Exhale. She writes with poetic prowess and is also the CEO of World Life Astrology. So I would like to bring to the stage Sonja Marie.
Welcome, denial, to the sweet tunnel of love. Expect no fairy tale rides between the wellness of these thighs. Never mind the years you smell, just bless the critters that dwell, marked by confusion, his masturbation, his obligation, his sweet intention, etc., 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 etc. To my left is Uncle Jake, a Memphis flake with a dynamite smile. Controlling the weather with his stroll, protecting manicured toes when he jogs, a true character. Met this gentle flower, same shit, nothing new. The garden proposed excitement to see what the darkness had grew. The boogeyman became Superman because Jake had a way of frightening fear. Her garden was forced to grow with tainted fertilizer that lasts for years, harboring sadness, joy's invasion, a reality for his sick cause. How do we heal from this madness, ladies? Tip, 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 tippy tip, 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 pause. In another time with the same mind, I'm a man now, I want to know how y'all heal from this, because I see your face in mine. In another time with the same mind, I'm a man now, I want to know how y'all heal from this, because I see your face in mine. Hey sisters, I said, hey sisters, you are the universe's shore. You nurture creation with prowess. You challenge the wind by devouring the storm. How could one remain silent and spread bitch-like into future commentary, acknowledging his lesson as some cheap, punk-ass macho commodity? Know your worth. I said, know your worth. Meditate on your cause. I speak from a loving experience. Never preach because I am imperious. I just want us to heal from this madness. Please heal from this madness. Like this. Tip, tip, tippy tip, 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 pause. In another time with the same mind, I'm a man now. I want to know how y'all heal from this shit. Because I see your face in mine. In another time with the same mind, I want to know how you heal from this, because I see your face in mine. In another time now, I want to know how you heal from this bullshit, sisters. Hey sisters. Hey sisters. What? Hey sisters. while the universe is sure. Stand up, be proud, stand in your life. Be proud and just be in your life. Know God is all around you, protecting you because it's purposeful. All the things that you had to do, all the things that you've grown and lived through, it was necessary. It made you strong. It made you stronger. It made you wiser. It made you very, very, very capable of healing yourself and healing the other. And another time, with the same mind, I'm a man now, I want to know, how y'all heal from this shit? Because I see your face in mine. Thank you.
Well, that closes our evening. Thank you so much for coming. I am going to be signing books somewhere over there in the corner. So if you want to kind of mingle, kind of have another snack, and then come over, I will sign your books. And thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you supporting Village Well Books, and come back and buy lots and lots and lots of books so we can keep independent bookstores in.